You are about to gain a huge advantage over anyone not using this settings formula. Although there are lots of different tutorials out there, I'm going to be disclosing advice to you which you won't find anywhere else. Hello everybody, I'm Itachi, and today I'm going to be walking you through exactly what settings you should use to improve your chances of PvP, raiding and defending yourself in the harsh landscape of Rust. These settings will work for the PC version of Rust. I also have a video telling you what settings to use for the console version, so there will be a link to that in the description. Also, this video is timestamped to help you find your way to the sections you need. Okay, so first things up are the general gameplay options, and one of the most important things you can do is actually your field of view. So you want to put this up to 90, which is the maximum, that's 90 degrees. You want to do this in any game realistically. It just means you can see from a wider perspective, and seeing from a wider perspective is just going to help you catch things out the corner of your eye a lot easier. Compass visibility, this is something you're going to want to have on as well. It's literally just the compass on top of your screen. It'll help you track your direction and navigate through the map. Streamer mode I have on just because I stream. You can find a link to my Twitch in the description below. And rich presence, this is literally just another thing to do with that stuff. You don't need to worry about that too much. Censorship is completely up to you. I've got nudity down to pixelated purely for the fact that you know, streaming and stuff, you don't want to have nudity in it, I guess. I don't know. It's probably banned from Twitch. And again, that's all up to you. Physics, you have max Gibbs here. Now Gibbs, you'll have seen people raid on YouTube, and when doors break or walls break, things like that, you see particles or broken pieces of that artifact that's been broken just hanging around. That's how many of these there can be at any one time. And if you set this down to 0, things will disappear quicker, the door will disappear quicker, you'll be able to see quicker, which means you can have an edge on your opponents. User interface, the scaling is completely up to you. This is just how big your normal stuff is, and again, all of this is completely up to you. Actually, it doesn't have any effect on actual gameplay itself. Audio can be very important, especially in a game like Rust. The only main one you have to focus on is the music volume in game. You want to turn this off, because having music suddenly kick up whilst you're, you know, listening out if anyone's walking near you or coming up on your raid, you don't want that getting in the way, so you're going to want to turn this off. Master volume, again, you're going to have this up just so you can hear footsteps and things like that of approaching players. Everything else is completely up to you, whatever works best for how you have it. These are just default settings, again, other than the music volume. If we go into controls, this is again entirely up to you, except for one thing in particular which you need to make sure you configure, which if you scroll down you will find hover loops. So I've got this as mouse 3. If you have extra buttons on your mouse, that's perfect. Basically, I hold either H on my keyboard or mouse 3, and as I drag across stuff in game, it will automatically move it from either my inventory to the loot container or the loot container to my inventory. Either way, it's just very helpful and makes things a lot quicker. Moving on to screen settings, this will be different depending on the monitor that you have. So max FPS limit, if you have a look at your refresh rate, I think it's best to have FPS limit below the refresh rate. I'm not entirely sure. My refresh rate is at 120 Hz, so I have 115 frames limit. You don't want this to be ridiculously high. I mean, again, if it's ridiculously high, you'd need a ridiculously strong computer to be able to keep up with it. And as mine could do with a few more upgrades, it's not going above 115. And VSync, you want to keep that off. That'll reduce frame drops. Now, just quickly before I move on to the settings, which will make the largest difference, I'd really appreciate it if you could hit that subscribe button, thumbs up, and notification bell down below. It would really help me get my channel going and won't cost you a penny. With that being said, on to graphic settings. This is the real meat and potatoes of everything that you're going to be doing. Graphics quality, if your PC can handle it, which it should be able to do. Rust is quite an easy game to run. Have it up at 5, okay? This keeps everything sharp enough that you can clearly distinguish players from the environment. And your render scaling up to maximum, that means you can just see further. Shadow quality all of this you want to have zeroed out from shadow quality down to shader level. Just put to the minimum possible you can have. You'll notice I have water quality up. The reason I have water quality up is because I just really like good looking water in games. I don't know, there's just something about it I really enjoy, so I just keep that up. But it basically just means, for me, when I'm playing, it's a little bit harder to see players that are in water, so it's easier to be snuck up on and things like that. So if you're looking for PvP, you're going to want to keep this down. Draw and shadow distance, you want max. Again, this is just going to help you see further, and this shadow distance will help you see details in the distance. Your filtering and mapping, again, pop this down to low as it possibly will. These have, well, as it just said, performance impacts, so you want to keep this down so you can run everything smoothly. Grass displacement, you want to keep this on, so again, grass displaces when walking over it. If you say it's night time, you can't really see very well, but you can see there's grass moving in the distance, that means there's a player there, you know, it's going to help a lot. Okay, you can come down a bit further and we have the mesh quality. Now, particle quality I have up at 100. This doesn't matter too much, but it just means things are more detailed so I can see things more clearly. Object quality you want to put at 140 and tree quality at 100. I believe those two are actually the defaults. And everything else, if you can, at 100 at the max. If your PC doesn't really want to run that, just make sure that max tree meshes is up at 100. This one is the important one. Essentially what this means is how far away the trees have to be, or how close the trees have to get before they will load in for you. If you have this too low, you will see players before trees, and so you can end up shooting at a player who is actually behind a tree, not seeing the tree and just hitting the tree, giving away your location, and let's be honest, nobody wants that. And moving on to image effects, this is quite simple. You can honestly just turn everything off, for PvP at least. I have sharpen and sun shafts on just because it makes the game look a bit nicer, and you can do that too if you like. Just make sure you have vignetting, motion blur, lens blur and depth of field off. Those four do make it hard to see things in game, which is just a pain, and it's something you really don't want to have to deal with. Onto experimental, you'll notice I have one of them on and the others off. Honestly, this is personal preference. The contact and grass shadows, these two here, they do make a difference. Obviously this is only experimental, so it will probably be fixed later on. However, at the minute, having these two on can lead to certain colours blending together, and occasionally players will just, wearing especially hazmat suits, will blend into walls and certain buildings, so I'd recommend keeping those off, at least for now, and the rest is just personal preference. These are without doubt the best settings you can use as you play, but you should definitely take the time to experiment with control settings to see what feels best for you. If you have any further questions or suggestions, let me know in the comments below, and with that being said, I will see you next week.